So can you make a drift trike drift without drift sleeves? Because you know how you have those 3-wheel drift trikes and you need those plastic or nylon drift sleeves to be able to make them drift. They just don't have the power to spin the tires over without the drift sleeves. So about a year ago, my dad brought over this drift trike, and this thing's been sitting under the tarp ever since. So I figured I'd try to get this thing running and try to get it drifting, but without the drift sleeves. This thing is pretty sweet. It's a Coleman drift trike. I think it has a 196 on it. I like that it has the 420 chain. So I'm sure this carburetor is hammered. So it has a VM22 on here that I'm sure is totally clogged after setting for a year. So I'm gonna run this thing up there and we'll see if we can get it running. That thing rolls easy. I'm gonna have to pull this carb apart and clean out the pilot jet for sure. Oh man, that's a trip. The gas actually still smells like gas and looks like gas. Well, that's a plus. Maybe it had some stable in there or something. Some stabilizer. Let's see what this bowl looks like. Oh man, that looks nice. It hardly has any fuel in it. But I think I'll go ahead and clean out the pilot jet anyway while I'm in here. Seems I already have it open. Man, you can even see through the pilot jet. So this thing could probably fire right up. So I think the only reason the slide's kind of sticking is the cable's a little bit messed up. Okay, if you look down there, that's why it feels weird, because it's only getting like a quarter throttle. But other than that, I think this thing will run. So let me fix that up real quick. Okay, let me see if this thing has any adjustment, which it does. Cool. Let me back this thing out and I bet it'll open up. There we go. There we go. Man, for some reason the tires feel low too. Another cool thing about this, it has hydraulic disc brakes. But the only one that works, or feels like it works, is the front. The back does not work. Who needs brakes anyway? I mean, the front's good enough. Oh man, this thing doesn't want to run unless it's choked. So I bet there's a leak between the manifold and the carb. Well, look at that. The gasket's on wrong. They got that thing on there upside down. And then the carb is not in alignment on the intake. So there's probably a leak there too. So I got the carb in alignment with the intake manifold and then the gasket on, correct? So now it should fire up. Maybe. All right, so that'll work. So it seems to run pretty good now. So I'll throw the air filter back on here and we'll see if we can drift this without drift sleeves. I mean, I don't think it's gonna have enough power because it's only running a clutch and not a driver driven, but we'll see. And if it doesn't, I have the secret weapon to make it drift without drift sleeves. I mean, it runs pretty good, but it just doesn't have the power to drift. It doesn't have the power to drift. And the front brake doesn't work that good. Man, I smell brakes. Whew, it burns those pads on the front. This thing does not have the power to drift. It'll just turn. Oh! Whoa! Man, I almost went off the cliff. I wonder if I should fix the brakes on this thing. Nah. I mean, the front brake's good enough, but it sure don't have the power to drift, I tell you that. So to give this thing the power to drift without drift sleeves, I'm gonna use the secret weapon. This Tillotson with a 30 series torque converter and a juggernaut. So I think this ought to make it drift. So I wonder if that's gonna be enough room for that torque converter on there. So it looks like it'll all mount on there as long as I run the torque converter up here. My riser plate lifts it up just enough on this side, and then on this side the chain will work right there as long as the torque converter is mounted up, because when I mount it back here, of course, it'll hit the brake. Plenty of room here for the juggernaut. It's not going to interfere with anything. And then the motor plate I can just drill. So we already have a couple holes in the plate for here, and then I can just drill there. So I think that'll work out. You know, while I'm at it, I think I'll go ahead and bleed these brakes. The only thing that was wrong with them was the sight window was leaking all the fluid out. So that'll probably reduce my chances of going off the cliff, maybe. Oh yeah, we got good brakes now. So I got my motor plate holes drilled. So now I'll see if I got this thing in alignment, hopefully. I would have moved over the sprocket, but on this setup here, you can't move the sprocket over. Okay, looks like I got that in alignment. So I guess I'll bolt her down right there and throw this chain on there. So that ought to work. But the only thing is, there was one little issue maybe. I think sure running close to that exhaust right there. I mean, you know, what's the worst that could happen? So one thing I did notice that's gonna make this thing throw the chain is that it's really flexible. The motor mount, so you can push down on it and it'll loosen the chain. So I know with this much torque, it's gonna rip that chain off. So I think I'm gonna weld up a brace right here. If I throw something like this under there, square tubing, and weld that up on there. Yeah, once that's welded up, it'll tighten up everything. So that should help it out, support that mount. I mean, it still flexes a little bit, but a lot better. So hopefully the chain won't pop. So I think the only thing left for the drivetrain is the juggernaut. And I think that's about it. Now this throttle cable might be interesting because it's kind of short. So I'm gonna have to solder a tip on here because the tip they had on here fell off. Now, hopefully this does it. I was able to pull a little bit more cable through by undoing the zip tie over there, so maybe this will do it. Oh yeah, I think we're long enough now. Oh yeah, there we go. So I'm thinking maybe I'll slap the gas tank right about here. So that should work. So I think that's pretty much about it. Wouldn't that be kind of funny after all this and it still doesn't drift without drift sleeves?
This thing feels like it's going to have a pretty good top end to it. Let's see what kind of top end this thing has. Oh, these rear brakes work fantastic.
Well, it definitely drifts without drift sleeves, and it has a really good top end. And another cool thing is you save money without having to buy drift sleeves. Oh wait, but now I have to spend money on tires.